So, you wanna animate smoothly, do ya? Okay. Well, you've come to the perfect...
What? What? Where did that come from? Jim. Yep, got it. Hey, you.
Huh?
Yeah, you. Could you just stand in the middle right there where it's marked?
Where the dead guy is?
Jim, what did you do to his voice? Yes, right there, right there.
Okay. So, you wanna
No,
animate...
no, don't say the intro. Just get on with the video, okay?
Okay.
You'll get murdered or something.
Is that
No, shut up and get on with the video.
Okay. So, yeah, how do you animate smoothly? Maybe you need lots of frames per second, or maybe you need motion blur, or maybe you need to use squash and stretch. Well, yeah, mostly. But most of my animations are 15 frames per second, and I don't use that much motion blur, though I do use squash and stretch a lot. But for me, the most important thing is... Well, that was anticlimactic. Anyway, the easing is the spacing between the in-betweens, and a common one I always use is this one. And here it is again in motion. Okay, let me just explain this a little better. So there is a frame, or multiple frames, that prepare the viewer for the motion that's about to happen. Then, the frame between the 2 points, then the deceleration, and finally the frame right before reaching its destination. You could also have some bounce back depending on what it is. Here are some examples of me using this easing method. This one is a bit slower, but I still use the same principles. Now, bounce back can help make an action or motion look more impactful and have more force behind it. Like this guy falling on his face. The other easing thing I use is... Now that was whatever the opposite of anticlimactic is. Despite its name, which I gave it, explosions is not its main use. I like to use it when I'm lazy. The explosive or snappy motion diagram looks something like this. Or this. For the lazy ones I just showed you, I use the second one. The preceding motion is squashing the character, again to get the viewer ready for the motion that's about to happen. The preceding motion with this easing method usually goes in the opposite direction of where the object will be. This helps the motion of the object moving forward more impactful, like pulling a punch before actually going in for the punch. But with the lazy ones, I just squash the characters a little bit before popping them back up again. Just don't overdo it because it can make the character look a bit funky. Try to have different elements that help ease the subject into the next frame. For instance, in this example, the face tilts down slightly before jumping up. The mouth opens tall before settling down again, and the arm lagging behind ever so slightly. Don't just have a stiff character bobbing up and down, as it can get really boring to look at. What? This easing method is not just to be lazy, but it's also to convey fast motion. What helps make these animations look smooth even if there's a lack of frames that convey motion is... Beautiful. Secondary motion is the motion of an element that is reacting to a primary motion. So that extra motion could be hair or yarns that you spend way too long on. See how in this clip, the motion of the elements that are connected to the character flows behind them after the snapping motion of the lifeless body. Or how the arms on this guy's lifeless body fly forward after he smashes into this cliff. Or again, the yarns that took me so gosh darn long. All of these help convey that there was a smooth motion that happened. You just didn't see it. Okay, well, the camera didn't pick it up. Secondary motion, however, doesn't just apply to this snappy motion, it applies to literally everything. So, try and use it as much as possible so your animations will look smooth. Okay, now you know all this fancy stuff, but my animations still look like this! What? So, consistency is your problem, is it? Well, it really shouldn't be, if you want to animate smoothly. Okay, the answer to your problem is... No, seriously, it's the best trick in the book. Just don't make it obvious. Otherwise, your characters will appear really stiff and boring. What are you looking at me for? Anyway, copy and paste is probably the most powerful tool in Flipperclip when there are no frame extensions or whatever this is called. Long frames? And there are no fancy light table tools like this. Copy and paste is something everyone should know how to utilize to its fullest potential. Take this for example. I had a gun tumbling through the air, but I didn't want to, or needed to animate the gun in every frame. I just copied and pasted it and moved it slightly. Also, it is a fast-moving object, so animating it nicely or with more detail would either make it look wobbly and stupid, or would just take too much time. Just a side note, this tends to work best with hard surface objects, things that don't warp or squish, like in this video. For the sake of consistency and so your animation doesn't look like this, use copy and paste. Don't waste time drawing something that will make your animations look less consistent and wobbly. So, with all that in mind, now all you gotta do is... In this section, I'll be showing you how I made this animation, and we'll be breaking it down into different steps. Firstly, I laid everything out that was in the video, so I didn't forget anything. That would be stupid, wouldn't it? Then I made a quick plan on what I'll do. And more. I didn't get to finish it, but it's fine. Usually when I animate on Flipperclip, I move straight to line art, or I draw a sketch of the first pose and base the rest of the animation on that, which is what I did here. However, I do recommend sketching out the main poses onto a separate layer before doing your animation. This is called a storyboard. I think, maybe, I never use them. Okay, here we go. When I animate, I work on individual elements at a time. In this case, I start animating the head, moving it down simply by copying and pasting until it gets to the next pose. This is so that the head remains consistent without me needing to carefully redraw it every frame. Next, I work on the face. I redraw the face a few times here because I want his expression to change a little, and it's easier to redraw, so why not? If you use copy and paste for a larger element, like a head, try and compensate for it by having lots of other things that move based on its movement. This is also known as adding secondary motion. It helps the animation look flowy and less stiff. When the face moves, for example, it moves along with the head but continues to move after the head has stopped. And also it has its own extra details like his eyes squinting or the brows shifting downwards. These little things help the head moving down look less boring. Next, I work on the hair. Oh gosh. Though hair does make your animation look smoother, when done right that is, it is one of the harder things to animate. Hair likes to drag behind a little and get caught up in the air. Not only that, it has its own structure which causes it to bounce back into place when it moves, while also being flexible and able to warp. This is why hair is my least favorite thing to animate. It's always shifting shapes, so copy and paste won't do. And hand animating it, which is hard enough, with the chaotic nature of hair will make it extremely difficult to keep consistent. And the more detail you add to it, the more strands and clumps you have to worry about. Now you can probably see me drawing a bunch of red dots and lines. This was me basically explaining to myself how to make hair flow. And of course, it's by using a nice curve. Something you need to know is that all points on a line should follow a curve. If not, it will look terrible. Like this arm that looked bad and wobbly. This is because in some frames it didn't follow a curve. Here's me basically visualizing what I mean. As you can see, it's a very, very nice curve. Once I am happy with the movement, I will start to work on the next pose. Animating like this can be slow, but for me it helps me focus on each movement of the character. Every time the character moves, I will do this process of basically checking things off a list. Animating the head, then the arms, then the body, then the legs, and then all the other details and props, like the gun or the arms. Here we go. As you can see, I'm going through the process of animating each element to my liking before moving on to the next. For this section, I wanted him to snap upwards to aim his gun, though since his gun has quite a bit of weight to it, he overshoots it and bounces back. Twice. Oh yeah, bounce back is usually relative to speed, weight, and distance traveled. The faster it travels and the longer the distance usually would have more bounce back. In this case, the gun is pretty heavy and it travels pretty far, pretty fast. So, to compensate for that, it overshoots and bounces back. Twice. After that, I just drew the body and the legs using the same principles and cleaned it up and erased any overlapping lines. Also, I continued to prove that smooth motion is caused by curves by drawing random lines on my animation. Anyway, I hope I helped, and if I didn't, then you can help me by commenting so I can help you better. That makes sense. But seriously, I hope this breakdown of how I think when I animate helps you in your future animation, and maybe it'll get you guys to stop requesting. Oh my gosh. One more thing, if you want to watch the entirety of me animating this animation, please don't, because my commentary sucks. But it would be on my second channel if you want it, and if you want it, go comment that you want it. And yeah, so. Oh, also, all music that I used will be in the description. See ya.